Hey everybody, I am back with another Ankh Gods of Egypt Guardian, and this is Babi, who is primed in Army Painter's White. I hope you're having a good day. Anyways, we're starting off with a little dry brushing of Dawnstone over the white because I want to have an underlaying gray that's going to come through a little bit through the wash and as a sort of like a lower layer of the skin kind of thing. So that's why I went with a dry brush of this. However, I realized a little later on that this was pretty much unnecessary, as the second one I didn't do this and it turned out looking almost the same. And instead of using a flesh wash, which I'm going to use later on this, I decided to use Agrax Earthshade as a wash on the entire miniature. And it ends up turning out almost identical actually, so that was pretty cool. Now we're using a skin tone called Onyx Skin. Now I've used these skin tones on some other people before, and I found that the paint was amazing and it went on super nicely. You didn't even have to do a second coat. This one was very, very opaque or see-through, watery. It was very odd actually, because I was like, okay, well this is not going on as I wanted. It's got a mixing ball in it and everything, but somehow it just turned out being like you could almost still see the white underneath. So you do have to put a second coat if you're going to use this color. By the way, the skin tones are still great to use in general, but this one just surprised me a little bit with the outcome of it. Alright, now we're going to be working with his staff, I'm assuming, or scepter. We're going to use some Black Templar just on the shaft of it, just to give it a dark and gray look to it. As you've known in the past with Black Templar, if you use it on a flat surface, it doesn't give many details. Like, you just have to let it brush on and give it the look it does. So it might give it like a spotty look, but sometimes it makes it look almost a little bit more used. Now we're going to use a little snake bite leather in between the parts where the gold is going to go on later on, just so it look like a strap is there. I mean, you don't have to necessarily do that. You could always just put a wash inside there and it'll be there. And it'll work the same way. So now we're doing the soft skin wash from Army Painter's Skin Tone paint set. So you can see I'm doing this pretty much on the entire miniature. The gray still comes through once it dries, but this is to do layering because people told me, hey, do your washes here, do this first, think about your layers, think about your tones and how you want to paint this. This guy, I sat down, I thought about it a lot. I made some changes to the second one. Like I said, I used Agrax Earthshade, which I've used on Shesmu, which came out like a great color for skin tones if you're looking for one. I've also noticed that my subscribers and my non-subscribers barely watch the videos, like they skip through a lot, so please stay tuned through the whole video. I usually talk the whole time, so I'm hoping I'm interesting. It helps with my channel grow as well by having more people watch the entire videos, and they're short, folks. They're not like 20-minute painting videos. So there I just used some Agrax dunes on that hieroglyphic cube or whatever. And now we're using some Longbeard Gray. This is the first of many dry brushings I'm going to be putting on him just to do layers of colors. So the first one I go a little bit harder, I use a different kind of brush. I use one that's just like an old brush that got this Longbeard Gray. And Longbeard Gray is an actual dry paint. It's made for dry brushing. So it just goes on like it's almost goopy. Almost looks like a gelatin, but it works amazing. But the thing is, I think you might waste a bit, so don't put too much on. Just put the tip of your paint brush in and then wipe it off on a paper towel, because I find that if you put too much on, you're just throwing it all on a paper towel. You're wasting quite a bit. And as you can see, the gray is still coming through from that other one I did, the Dawnstone. The flesh skin tone is still coming through, so it's pretty cool. Like, the dry brushing is a good technique. And now I'm going to use some Bleach Skull. This is a unique D&D paint. Once again, as you can see, I'm using a different kind of brush, which is going to try and you just slightly put this over. And it doesn't matter if you get other parts where you're going to paint later on, because it doesn't matter, you're going to paint over them anyways. And anyways, it helps sometimes bring out a little bit more details when you're painting over that area later on, a little bit easier as well. So as you can see, the white really does start to pop a bit more. He's starting to look more like the artwork. And then I do the last dry brush of Pale Skin, which is from Zombicide Invader paint set. And this one I use another one, a flatter brush, just to get in the nooks and crannies of the front and just the top part pretty much of his head, and I'm just going to go slowly over some other parts. Now I do a dry brush of fur brown underneath his chest, because he has a very darker chest color there. As you can see, you can still see a bit of the skin tone. Now I'm doing some ash gray on his face just to give a little bit more depth and texture. However, on that first stroke I noticed there was a little bit more paint than I wanted, but it still comes out looking pretty cool. Now I'm using an effects paint from Army Painter. Yeah, an effects paint, Dry Rust. I would have never thought to use this, but because of the orangey color he had on his fur, I didn't really have anything that was that, and I wanted it to be a little bit more watered down, and the effects paints are watered down. Now we're using some Fire Lizard for the eyes. The eyes pop a little bit more, they're like a golden brown, so it's perfect. One of the longer parts on this miniature was doing all the jewelry, so this we're going to be using some bright gold, just getting all the jewelry on his face and on the scepter as well. Alright, now we're going to use some Ethereal Spectre, which is a D&D's unique color, and we're doing this for 4 parts of the jewelry that's coming off the side of his face. I wanted a really light purple for this, like the artwork, and that's what that was used. Now for a very deep red, we're using pure red. This is going to be for the top ornament or whatever that is on his head. This is going to go the front and the back of it. I could have used metallic colors on all of these, but you know what? I didn't want to do that because it wasn't like in the artwork that it was popping and very like metallic and shiny. It was just very faded and dull and just nice and just simple, you know. Now we're using a little bit of scar tissue. This has got a pinkish beige tone to it, which is perfect for a couple spots as well on this head dressing, head garment, I don't know, whatever that thing is on his head. Alright, a little toxic mist for the one dangling off his chin, and for the little tiny eyes that are on the top part of that jewelry as well. Now we're going to be using a new diorama. I picked up some Sandy Desert from AK Interactive, and I'm going to add some dollar store sand to it just to give it more grainy, because I heard that people have done that. They mix in other stuff with it. I'm also using these new AK Interactive tools like spatulas and stuff, because I was using paintbrushes before. It just makes a mess. I'm using the paintbrush to layer it on, which after I was like, oh no, I should have just used the spatula thingy. Anyways, because if you use a brush, it can ruin the brush, so use a really old brush. So these little tools came in handy just to see, as you can see, just to mash it around down there. And they're stainless steel, so what's great is that they wash super easily. They don't get into the bristles, you know. It's not like you have to put your hands in like a bunch of hot water to get all the rocks out. So the reason of mixing them, though, I just wanted to see if it was going to give a bit more texture to it, but it didn't really. This stuff is like peanut butter too. It's really cool. It goes on really nicely. We're going to be finishing off this miniature with a little bit of Nuln Oil. I have to say, I love the Nuln Oil because it doesn't really darken the colors. It actually keeps the colors in the background. As you can see, that the pink, the purple, the green, they stay. The red just came like a little darker red, but I mean, it just brought out more of the highlights. Anyways, I want to thank you guys for watching. I hope you enjoyed these videos. Hit that like button if you're new to the channel. Hit that subscribe button. And this is Babi, the Guardian, all ready for the table.